What am I eating again? What is this?
Welcome back to Borough Talks, the Borough Market podcast. I'm Giulia Crouch, and this winter we're back at London's historic food market, speaking to the chefs and traders who bring it to life.
It's a very special place. When I'm away too long from Borough Market, I always miss it.
From the exceptional cured meats of Italy and Spain to expertly matured farmhouse cheese.
So you take the curds and you cut them up into little bits and add the salt. That's British cheese.
And modern French cuisine to refreshing matcha.
I mean, I love it when someone comes to me and is like, I've never tried matcha before. I'm like, you're the perfect customer.
This season is all about iconic food and drink and the people behind it. Join us as we dig into their stories, seasonal ingredients, and take a closer look at what makes this market so special. This is Borough Talks. Today we're talking all things matcha with Claudia Boyer, co-founder of Jenki, the matcha bar we are recording in today, and one of the pioneers of London's matcha scene. Claudia, thank you so much for having us in your space and welcome to Borough Talks.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here. And like you say, in Borough, we are actually overlooking Borough Market, which is a very cool space to be.
Isn't it so beautiful? I absolutely love this location. I think we should start with the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly is matcha and where is it grown and how is it made?
So matcha is, simply put, finely ground green tea, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. And when I say it's a little bit more complicated, it's the process in which matcha is made that makes it different to regular green tea. Grown in Japan. It was founded sort of in the 1100s and brought over originally from China. And it was a Zen Buddhist monk who kind of came across its powerful benefits and sort of evolved it into the traditional ceremony that we see today in Japan. And ultimately what happens in the process of making matcha is you shade the tea leaves crucially for 3 weeks before harvest. Mm-hmm. You're growing the same tea leaves and the Camellia sinensis plant as you do with any sort of tea, but you shade those tea leaves for 3 weeks before harvest, and that increases all the potency of all the nutrients and gives it that vibrant green color. Mm-hmm. To kind of harvest the best matcha, you're sort of picking an early first harvest. It's called ichibancha in Japanese, and you'll be picking the select few top leaves of the plant, and that's where the sort of most potent flavor, the sweetest, greenest, most vibrant matcha is produced, and that's then steamed, air dried, and then finely ground into the powder that you see. And it's one of the finest powders you'll find, much finer than even flour. So that's then the incredibly delicate powder that then we whisk into a load of different things, but it's now been made in food and across a range of different things, which is really exciting to see.
It's such an amazing process, isn't it? Like it sounds quite complex and quite delicate, like they shade the leaves and take real good care of them,
of course,
and like you're saying, it makes the nutrients kind of more potent, and I think that's something to do with like the leaves having to like kind of fight harder because they're in the shade.
So they're ultimately producing more chlorophyll, which ups all the nutrients within the leaves, and we're obviously seeing a sort of rise in interest in matcha, but I think one of the key reasons for that is the sort of the caffeine, the energy source that it is. What also rises in potency when it's shaded is L-theanine, which when combined with caffeine produces this slow release energy, as opposed to those sharp spikes and crashes you get from coffee. You're getting a more sustained, longer lasting energy. The L-theanine that also gives you that really focused clarity. Yeah. I think caffeine reacts differently to everyone, and I think for all these things it is very personal, but you can definitely drink more than you can coffee.
And I noticed that. I can drink it later in the day. I wouldn't really have a coffee past 1 p.m, but I can definitely have a matcha.
It's so interesting because people definitely have that. They're like, coffee cut off. I don't drink it past midday, otherwise I'm not going to sleep. Or if they don't sleep, they're then blaming the coffee. It's like, because I had it past that sort of threshold. Whereas we definitely see more of our busy period in the afternoon. And I think people are now reaching for matcha as opposed to coffee in that afternoon sort of slump, that moment where they need that extra kick, but they're not wanting to reach for coffee. And I think that's where matcha's sat so wonderfully, as it has given people that alternative in that routine ritual element that they've already got within their day, which ultimately was how we kind of found matcha in the first place.
Well, I want to ask you, like, how did you become interested in matcha and what got you so hooked on it?
I was very much a coffee drinker, loved exploring new coffee, different places serving coffee, and just loved coffee culture generally. But I was drinking too much coffee, and I was getting myself into those moments of not being able to sleep or anxiety or all those sort of things that we associate with drinking too much coffee. And it was Otto who sort of suggested, oh, you've got to try matcha.
And Otto's your husband?
Husband, Otto, yeah, and also co-founder.
Where had he first tried matcha?
So he had grown up in Asia, and so had been sort of exposed to more matcha there than you do in the UK. And we had travelled a bit and experienced different like pockets of the world exploring matcha as a sort of more cafe concept than the ritual that we know it of in Japan. But I had tried matcha, but it wasn't good matcha. It was poorly prepared, really bitter, dull, grainy matcha. My first reaction was, I just don't like, I'm not sure I like matcha. I have tried it.
What did you think of it? What did you think it tasted like when you first tried it?
Yeah, I think it was bitter. I sort of instantly felt that, yeah, and I loved coffee, so I loved that kind of bitterness, but it was a different kind of, and it was generally because I was trying poor quality matcha. And as soon as Otto was like, no, you've just tried poor quality matcha, you need to try the good stuff, really. And once I sort of tried really delicious matcha, I then was amazed firstly by its taste and how like nuanced that could be. It's much more smooth, creamy. You've got nutty tones. It was a really interesting flavor, and also then all the benefits that came with it. I have a sort of brief background in nutrition, so I have a lot of interest in that. But the more I learned about it, the more I was like, wow, this is just such an incredible ingredient. Why isn't everyone drinking this? It seems wild that we're all here drinking coffee when there is this incredible other ingredient. And so we're in London and looking around where we could try and go and experience matcha as opposed to getting a coffee. It was always an afterthought on a menu, batch prepared, poorly prepared, definitely not of a high enough grade for us to be drinking it. And that sort of stimulated the idea that what if we could bring this sort of idea, this concept that you could have matcha as part of your daily routine in the same way you could coffee, which is always so why we wanted to deliver that in-bar experience as opposed to just direct to people's homes, because we wanted people to come in and experience it freshly, as I did when I learnt that it could be prepared in a different way. So we tried in sort of different sort of pockets around London, just Otto and I sampling, just really taking on board people's response to trying matcha and different sort of ways of preparing it. And I think we landed on that ultimately we needed to demystify the education of matcha and how it was prepared and how it could be prepared well. Yeah, that's sort of where it started.
On your back.
So what was the perception of matcha did you launch in 2020?
Yeah, the markets we were running between like 2019 and 2020, just around COVID. And
had people been drinking much matcha at that point in London?
No, it was very much like, it wasn't on menus. And if it was very different type of matcha to what you see now. It was grey, practically. I mean, we put a coffee machine in our first bar, which we opened in Spitalfields in July 2021, because we needed to get people into the door. And once we got people in, it was then like, we're actually a matcha bar. Would you like to try matcha? And generally most, like every other customer was, what's that green stuff?
Really?
And what is matcha? I've seen it. It's a type of green tea, or it would be getting confused with mate tea. So there's been a huge education that's happened over the last 5 years. And it's definitely not just us that's done it. It's been a sort of rising wave of awareness, which I am definitely a big believer in. A rising tide like lifts all ships.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible to see that rise in awareness. And I think it's off the back of that curiosity for what is that green drink. It's incredible to see whisked that you're seeing across like social media. And then when people are starting to apply the sort of benefits to that as well, and the innovation that's going on around the flavors and how you can enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's been a really interesting time to be a matcha.
100%. And since 2020, like the rise in popularity has been insane, especially in the last year, I would say. Is that something that's taken you by surprise?
Yeah, pleasantly surprised. I guess obviously we had always hoped that that would happen. I think we were very much driving that awareness. And I think there was a lot that we had consistently done in order to increase that. But it's definitely spiked in the last year. And I think it's very difficult to sort of say what exactly has caused that rise. And I think it is people are more and more aware of what they're putting in their bodies. People are after, moving away from that total hustle culture and more for like a slow moment, a considered moment. And they're also looking at how they feel themselves and they're wanting more clarity, more focus, not just hectic or frantic energy. And matcha is perfectly positioned for that. And it is something that is tried and tested. I think a lot of people pushed it aside, and the conversations we had at the beginning was, oh, it's just going to be a trend.
Really?
Which was obviously frustrating to hear, but we knew that it has obviously been part of a culture, a rich part of culture for a long time. It is very much tried and tested. It's not a fad. There are proven benefits, and it's very relatable to the everyday consumer. And it is really interesting to see how people are taking it on board and how people are now drinking it and discovering it. And our initial menu always set out to be hyper accessible and introduce people to matcha. I mean, I love it when someone comes to me and is like, I've never tried matcha before. I'm like, you're the perfect customer to come into Jenki, but also a matcha connoisseur who is after something super pure as well. So I think, and people are also, I think, intrigued by the craft of it and where it comes from. And I think because people are more interested in the source of their ingredients, when you then tie in how matcha is made and like produced, I think that's also another level of intrigue for people as well.
With like such a fast growing category comes like lots of competition. So how does Jenki stand out now amongst the crowd? Like, it seems like there's a new matcha bar opening like every week. I'm always getting emails. Do you want to come to this new matcha bar? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, yes, I do. No, it's great to see and the love for matcha rising. And like, there is a lot more coming onto the scene. And that is obviously very exciting, very positive, but it does also come with its pressures. Yes, on Jenki, but also I think the wider issue being on like the supply of matcha and the growers and farmers and producers in Japan. And I think for us, we've built really long-standing relationships with the farmers, and it's just really ensuring that we continue to be as transparent as possible and really nurture those relationships. We've always been focused on the freshly whisked to order, sourcing with integrity. We've worked with the same farm since the beginning. And I think we continue to sort of really nurture those relationships and also sort of really understand what the stresses and like pressures are on those communities. And then, once we've really nurtured that, it's then on us to then educate from our side here in the bars. I mean, we're sitting in it right now, and there's sort of educational pieces around us to really try and inform the customer on where this product's coming from and place value really in that process. We freshly whisk to order every single drink, and that for us is something that is really distinguished amongst a lot of the other locations in London. And also we have a central kitchen in southeast London where we make everything fresh to order as well. So nothing we use in our bars is artificial, pre-batched, or using anything that's not natural. So that's something for us that we really want to ensure we continue to do. And I think there is a lot of hype out there, and there are a lot of really exciting things happening in matcha. But I think just continuing to be the educators and the experts in matcha and what good quality matcha is just something that's really important to us, and we will continue to kind of ensure that we do the best job of.
100%. And as demand has skyrocketed, are you worried about sourcing? Has it become harder?
No, not worried. I think it's just, rather than going faster in that search for volume, it is just really ensuring that we go deeper into relationships and quality. Whilst we've worked with the same farm in Uji, which is the home of matcha,
that's in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, just outside Kyoto. We have widened our sort of research on different farms in different regions, and I think whilst Uji places a sort of really close spot in our heart, and we will continue to always work with our farm there and Japan, we are looking at other regions also to introduce the curious customer to new regions of Japan and also spread that awareness of other areas and regions doing cool things.
Is matcha grown anywhere else apart from Japan?
The Camellia sinensis plant is grown in other areas of the world.
But in the same matcha way,
But
where
the
they
process where it's shaded and then the processing after that, so where it's stone ground or finely ground, is very unique to Japan.
Okay.
That said, there are other areas of the world that are starting to produce matcha. China, Vietnam and Thailand are doing some quite interesting things. And I think whilst, again, for us at Jenki, we're very much aware of what is going on in other areas of the world, I think it is really important to champion where matcha comes from and the sort of traditional practices and quality and everything that Japan does for matcha. And for us, that's something that we'll just continue to really nurture. Again,
that's
kind of like
know.
champagne, sparkling wine, you know, that it's a sort of a similar.
Yeah. Does matcha from different regions taste different?
Within matcha, you have different cultivars being the plant cultivars. And obviously then it's impacted by the same similar sort of things. So the terroir, climate, type of soil, sort of aspect of where the plant's grown. And then also that processing. So people use different sort of shading techniques. They use different grinding techniques. So that's something that we really kind of go into.
You can get proper nerdy about matcha.
Yeah, you can get really nerdy. And it's something that we've held back for a long time because we obviously have like a real awareness for all of these like nuanced matcha processes and different regions. And it is really exciting to see how people are growing in interest for matcha because it allows us to get more nerdy on those things, but also hopefully start sort of sharing that with a wider audience as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. I suppose for most people in the UK, it's still a new concept, isn't it, matcha? And so how can people like go about identifying a good matcha? Because like you said, there's some really bad matcha out there.
Yeah.
And that can put people off. I always say to people, oh, no, if you don't like it, you've probably had a bad one.
And I think there are a lot of these terms that come around and repeat quite a lot with matcha, and having a bad matcha or a bad experience is quite achievable with matcha.
Yeah.
And so you do need to kind of have that checklist before trying one. And it's our job to kind of make sure that people are super aware of what that can be. So I guess if you're going into not Jenki, if you're going in somewhere else or you're buying matcha online or in a shop, it's always worth checking the origin of the matcha. So I guess firstly, if it's from Japan or if they are actively saying it's from Japan, it's a good place to start. The region does make a difference, and Uji, we just mentioned, is so I would say the origin and where it comes from, sort of have a awareness of that. And then it's also, I mean, within sort of Western society, we've placed a sort of terminology around what good quality matcha is, which is ceremonial grade matcha.
Right.
It's not a term necessarily used in Japan, but it's a good indicator for a higher quality. The difficulty is it's now been thrown around. There's no regulation around a ceremonial grade matcha. So whilst it was a great indicator 5 years ago, it's now sort of been abused a little bit.
Yeah.
So sadly, I can't probably say that that's a good term to use, but you will see it on matcha, on sort of if people were to ask. And then I think it's also, I mean, you can't get into the matcha, but the smell, you want it to be sort of fresh, slightly sweet, as opposed to sort of dull, sort of a bitter, astringent flavor. The fineness of the powder is another one that I talked about, finely ground process. And a lot of matcha now isn't finely ground enough. So that's another one to look out for. And then the color. So, and I think that's, you know, we would often at the beginning have some of these bigger corporations serving matcha, and people would literally come in with their matcha from such and such place, and it would be grey, and then you'd put it next to a Jenki matcha which would have this vibrant green colour, and that is just an indication of that shading practice, which kind of increases that chlorophyll, ultimately increases that vibrant green colour, and that is just a key indicator that the matcha is coming from a place of of quality. And also the key indicator that I always used to see, and I think people are catching on to this a bit more now, but often matcha, because of this beautiful green colour, it's stored in glass containers in cafes. And I can't remember whether I mentioned it to you, but matcha is an incredibly delicate powder. And so when it's exposed to light, oxygen, anything like that, it starts oxidizing. It also loses a lot of its benefits and flavour. So just ensuring where it's stored.
Keep it
It's
in
a
a
good
dark
indicator. In a dark cupboard, even in the fridge if you can, tightly sealed.
Oh, in the fridge?
Yeah, because the kind of temperature changes can kind of mess with it. It's just super delicate.
I don't keep mine in the fridge. Should I start doing that?
Yeah, you could start doing that.
Okay.
A sort of a level up on your matcha storage.
I'm going to level up. I just keep it in a dark cupboard at the moment, but
Yeah,
I
that's
want it
pretty
to be
good,
the
to be honest. If you're getting through it quick enough.
I use it every day.
Yeah, so you probably should be okay.
right.
But yeah, the fridge is just a stable temperature.
Okay.
So it will help control that. So we'll keep our matcha in the fridge, in the bars, but then on the sort of service matcha, it's there throughout the day. But we'll get through it pretty quickly.
Speaking about flavour and
Yeah.
taste, so I think a lot of people think that matcha is a very bitter thing.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be bitter? Because one time I was speaking to someone and they said, actually, it's not supposed to be very bitter. It's actually supposed to be a bit sweet.
Yeah. So I talked about picking the leaves. You pick the whole leaf, but you should de-stem and devein it and get rid of those sort of hyper bitter astringent parts of the plant. And you're just left with the leaves, which turn into the tencha tea leaves. So a lot of the astringency can come from poor quality matcha, and also matcha that isn't harvested from the top part of the plant. I don't know whether it's sort of like if you're picking mint leaves, if you always pick the small kind of sprouts at the top, you're always getting the kind of most potent flavour. And it's sort of similar with matcha. So the longer you leave the leaf on there and the older it is, the more bitter astringent. And so as you go sort of lower down the plant, it gets more bitter. Jenki matcha is sort of synonymous with more of a sweet, nutty, creamy aroma. So it should be quite balanced. What we have here is actually an exclusive for you to try that isn't available at the bars currently, but it is available to buy online. And it is quite a rare single cultivar matcha.
So are other ones more of like a blend then?
Yeah, so you would blend a few different cultivars to achieve a sort of quite balanced matcha flavour. And different cultivars have different flavour notes. So you could use a more bitter cultivar and pair that with something a little bit more balanced to counteract. Yeah, to get a single cultivar is quite rare. So this is a single cultivar called Saikari. It's from the Yame region, which is a bit further down south in Japan.
How do you prepare it?
So this is freshly we've hand whisked this. We've used 3 grams of Saikari matcha, hand whisked with some water. Crucially, a certain temperature of water. You don't want to burn your matcha because that will ruin its flavour.
Okay, what temp are we talking?
So we've got our temperature set to 70 degrees, and then it's just topped up with water. It's a little bit more floral and delicate than a sort of regular tea, and it is punchier.
It's really
It's
floral.
like having an espresso as such.
It smells like really, really floral, really fragrant. It smells different to the matcha I make at home. Oh, it's really good. It's got a tiny bit of bitterness, but not overwhelming at all. It's really comforting, which sounds strange because it's obviously a strong and distinct taste.
Yeah.
But it tastes very fine and like it's...
Yeah, I mean, how we've described, like how the notes that we sort of get is quite delicate and more floral, quite creamy and balanced. Like, you know, that's literally 3 grams of matcha powder and the rest is water, yet it has quite a richness to it that I think feels quite full and creamy.
It does, almost a milkiness, even though there's no milk in there.
Exactly.
But also some
nuttiness.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of nuttiness. Otto and I tried it in Japan and we were just like blown away. And so we basically decided we had to bring this home for people to try.
A lot of people don't like to drink it without milk, but I feel like you definitely can drink this one without milk.
Yeah, and that's really what we would encourage people to do. Because of the more premium single cultivar quality of it, it is more expensive. And therefore, I think it would be a shame to sort of overpower it with milk, even other flavors. I think best enjoyed a sort of, if you can, a more ritualistic moment where you can take time to pause and enjoy it and really enjoy the flavor of it. And it is for someone who's more interested in the discovery of matcha and a different flavor and just getting that complexity of matcha.
So I'm a bit of a like matcha purist.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah.
And so I tend to think that there's all these crazy flavors these days, like miso maple, banana bread,
We've
matcha.
got it all. Yeah.
I'm like, that's surely for people who don't actually like matcha. What's your take on this?
So I think it's really interesting, and we started including a range that was more like relatable to the consumer. So bringing in different flavors that people were familiar with, so familiar flavors. So even calling like a flat green, a matchacano, the matcha latte, and then working with flavors. I've got here a ginger turmeric. It's basically trying to be relatable to the coffee consumer.
Okay.
And how they would consume coffee. The initial question I always ask was like, how do you drink coffee? And therefore I can kind of pair a matcha for you. And then there's people that go, I drink my coffee as an espresso or an Americano. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you the salted vanilla matcha latte, am I? Because you're not interested in that sort of. What's also happened in this shift, I think, curiosity to how they're consuming their caffeine and different flavors. For us, we've added a lot of additional functional benefits to our matcha. So I've given you my sort of my order.
This is your order. So
I would
ginger
have
and turmeric.
Ginger and turmeric. It's iced with coconut milk.
Oh, it is fiery. You get
I think
that
it's got
fiery
fresh,
ginger at the end.
uplifting sort of flavour in
Really
there.
uplifting. Do you know what?
Quite different.
That works really well.
Yeah, I
have
think
to admit, because the matcha brings this kind of like smooth, earthy creaminess.
Yeah.
Then you get very fresh ginger.
Yeah.
And the lovely like spicy turmeric.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the spicy savoury mix with a bit of the coconut is a little bit sweet and a little bit creamy, but I think when paired with other milks, almond or coconut or even dairy, they can become a bit more overpowering, whereas the coconut allows it to sort of be lifted.
That's really refreshing.
The next one is, well, I thought you had to try this one because it's what we launched at Borough. The Jenki London Fog, which is our own homemade Earl Grey infused matcha with bergamot. And I really love this because I am a big Earl Grey fan. And I think the floral notes work really nicely with matcha.
Let me give it a go.
So that's the other one.
So do you have kind of like a special in each of your stores?
No, it was actually just something that we did for Borough, just to reflect the sort of the space in which Borough is, and being an iconic London location for us, we wanted to nod to that. We have only in the last couple of months launched it across all locations because it's become such a popular drink.
Yeah, the Earl Grey in that is fantastic. It's so good. I would say it's less matcha-y than the others. Weirdly less than the ginger, which you would the ginger would overpower the matcha more.
Yeah. I think it sort of lifts it. That because of the floral, it kind of comes in quite heavily alongside that. But I really
it's a delicious drink, like on a summer's day.
Yeah.
Strolling around the market with your London Fog, that's lovely. I love it.
And again, really nice hot if you're wanting something a little bit more comforting. And then this final one it's a salted vanilla sea salt matcha, very much for someone that likes things a little salty. So
yes,
it's not for everyone in that sense, but for those that love it, they absolutely are diehard fans for it. Yeah, the balance of the sweet and salt, and definitely more on the indulgent end of the spectrum.
I'm not going to lie, I've had it before.
Yeah, okay, she's had it before. She was going to go in cold there, but then...
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
It's saltier than I had it last time, which I really enjoy because I like that. I always like that combo.
Yeah, it is a good sweet and salt.
Yeah, vanilla and salt is good.
Always good.
And add some matcha.
Yeah, why not?
It kind of reminds me of, in Japan, you get those like parfaits that are like, there's so many things in there. It's like a sundae. And you get ice cream and matcha and little mochi and all kinds of different flavors. So
all
really,
in one cup.
Yeah. It's really fun. And like, I suppose it's, if you're craving actual matcha, then it's a bit different. But I suppose there's many like gateway drinks into matcha.
And I think that's it. It is a sort of the different flavors that people kind of lean into. And I think it is that moment of being a little treat to yourself is more these sort of flavored drinks.
Yeah.
So we kind of balance those sort of fun flavors, and we've really tried to offer people a sort of matcha for any moment in the day, and make it exciting and surprise a customer. So if you are a normal G&T, ginger and turmeric drinker, you might go and try the vanilla sea salt just to kind of have a go at something else.
I don't think you can go wrong. They all taste amazing. So to make it at home, you obviously have the water at a certain temperature, like 70 degrees.
Yeah.
You have your matcha. What else do you need?
A newbie sort of starting to make matcha at home, we have a ritual starter set, which includes everything you need, which would be a sieve, a spoon, a portion spoon to make sure that you're not serving a too large a quantity of matcha, and also a bamboo whisk, which is the traditional bamboo whisk made to prepare matcha in Japan. In simple ways, to start, you would get a bowl, a smallish bowl. You would sieve in about 3 grams of matcha, which would be 2 portion spoons of matcha into the bowl.
Per person, is
Per person.
Right.
So you'll sieve it in, and by sieving it, you'll also help reduce some of the clumps of matcha. Matcha is never fully dissolved in water. It suspends, the tea leaves ultimately suspend in water. So you do want to remove any of those clumps or lumps of matcha. So you've sifted your 3 grams of matcha into the whisking bowl, and then you will add about 40 milliliters of water, a sort of shot of water. I did mention earlier, but you don't want it to be boiling water. Boiling water will burn the matcha and ruin the flavor and all its benefits. So you just want to keep it as sort of a sort of 70 degrees is what I say, but I know most people don't have 70 degree sort of measuring kettles at home. Some do.
I just measure. I pour my water out into a jug, and I measure it with like a little meat thermometer.
Oh my god, that's so clever. Okay, I've never.
I don't have
thought
one
about
of those
that.
kettles either, but I thought I don't want to ruin my nice matcha that I've bought.
Well, another that's so clever. I've always actually wanted to go around and see how people do all these things, because there's always, people don't have a sieve, or they don't have there's always different ways of people doing it. But another way you can do it is just you could add cold water first and then just top up, just so that you don't get that, you're not burning directly the matcha. But yeah, about a shot of water, not too hot, not boiling water. And then what you will do is have your bamboo whisk, which I would recommend soaking in water before using. The bamboo whisk is made with a single piece of bamboo. So it is
really
quite a delicate piece of wood, effectively. And by soaking it in water, it will just soften the bristles, which will make it easier to whisk, but also it won't break. It will last longer. And then you're whisking, and I'm doing this sort of technique, but it's sort of like an M motion, whisking up and down. You're not going round in circles, because you'll just kind of make a tidal pull of you whisking up and down until it starts to create a sort of a foam and release its aromas. It's a really beautiful smell at this point, and the matcha is hopefully fully dissolved in the water. And I would whisk for about 30 seconds to a minute, and that should be, with good quality matcha, all you need. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your shot of matcha, and you can do with it as you please.
Obviously, it does have so many health benefits that we have kind of touched on. So it's that kind of like slower release energy, antioxidant.
Yeah.
What else? Do you know more about the health benefits?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few benefits that you can focus on. I mean, a lot of people talk about, it depends whether you want to compare it directly to coffee or whether you're looking at it as a solo ingredient for its benefits. But it's also been known to support gut health. There is fiber in it. You are consuming a whole tea leaf, which is quite unusual when most tea is brewed. Coffee is obviously a bean brewed. Then also your oral health, you're not getting stains on your teeth. It's actually great for oral health.
It's an amazing ingredient.
It is a really amazing ingredient. And I think the antioxidants is, I think the key sort of thing that you can sort of compare it to is there's about 100 times more antioxidants in matcha than there is in blueberries, for example. Like it's really, really rich in antioxidants. We're just obviously consuming different amounts of it. So
yes. And Do you think that the matcha wave is going to like keep going up and up? Are we nearing the peak of the matcha craze? What's going to happen?
Where it can go. No, we've definitely seen matcha is now on every menu. And I think now it's just really about sort of where the quality of that matcha, the transparency of the matcha served. I think what's interesting is seeing the sort of evolution of coffee from instant to going into specialty coffee, and whether we'll see that same evolution with matcha. Is the discovery going to stop here and it's just going to be flavored matchas, or is it more looking into discovering new regions of matcha, new cultivars, for example, and sort of how people kind of interact with it? I don't think it's going to go backwards. I think it's, I don't know what the future holds for it, but it's definitely getting more exciting, and it's just amazing to see people
100%.
more and more involved and open to trying it.
And what's next for you guys? I mean, you said, you've got twins,
Yeah.
so you're quite busy.
Quite busy. Sort of everything seems to be doubling. We are looking to open more matcha bars in London to service different neighbourhoods. And I just touched on it just then, but really that matcha discovery and that online customer as well. I think right now we have quite a limited range of products to support that experience at home. And whilst we want to keep refining and doing a better job of what we can do in our bars, continuing to launch sort of seasonal specials and exploring how we can innovate matcha in our bars, we really want to provide an exceptional experience for the at-home customer as well. So really trying to understand how people can get it into their routines if they can't get down to a Jenki in London.
Totally. Well, as a big matcha fan, it's been so nice to speak to you and so
thank
amazing
you.
to try all these different matches. You definitely
Sorry, I've
opened...
taken you on to quite a wild journey of matcha.
You opened my mind to actually flavours can be really good.
Okay,
so
good.
And the special single cultivar one we
Yeah.
tried was exceptional.
Oh, good.
So I really recommend that to anyone who's really
Thank
interested.
you.
Claudia,
I've
thank
loved
you
it.
so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank
It's
you.
been an amazing chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to speak to Claudia about the huge success story that is Jenki and delve a little deeper into the world of matcha. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Borough Talks. Follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got plenty more good food and great stories to come. Borough Talks is hosted by me, Giulia Crouch, produced by James Deacon, audio editing and sound design by Chris Attaway, videography by Felipe Franco. Thanks to Liam, Matt and Bethan at Borough Market, and to all our guests for the food, the conversation and the time. And thanks to Jenki for being the backdrop to this series.